Gardening during the heat of the hot summer months in places like Arizona is certainly a challenge, but we can do this. Today I'm going to share my best tips and tricks and advice for gardening during the summer in hot places like Arizona. But if we haven't met before, my name's Angela from Growing in the Garden, and I love to share helpful tips and inspiration so you can be successful growing your own garden. The most important thing you can do to help your garden during the summer is to plant the right vegetables at the right time. Planting at the right time will help your vegetables grow and be established before the heat of the summer kicks in. Healthy plants are a great defense against the stress of added heat. Unfortunately, during the summer, there's not a lot of leeway with watering your garden. If you miss a couple of days, a lot of plants in your garden may be dead or may not be able to recover from the stress. So watering is one of the most important things to do, and it's often one of the least understood principles of gardening. I get more questions about watering your garden than anything else, and I wish there was one easy answer that I could give everybody. But hopefully, after you listen to these principles, you will be able to apply them to your own garden and know exactly how much to water and pay attention to what your garden needs, which is really the most important thing. Generally, some sort of automatic watering system is best. It can be as simple as a battery-operated timer set to a watering hose. You don't want to just set it and forget it. Plan on being in the garden during the time when your watering system normally runs. This can prevent a lot of problems. If you're in the garden when the system is on, you can be alerted to any issues like a dead battery or a leak in the system before they become a major problem. Wet the entire root zone each time that you water. So when you're trying to decide how long to water, run your watering system and then check to see how deep the moisture is going, and make sure that they are getting enough water each time, because we want to encourage the roots to go deeper by watering longer and less often. Frequent shallow watering results in root systems that stay close to the surface. Plants that have deep, healthy root systems are able to withstand the summer temperatures much better. It's important to pay attention to your plants and look for signs of water stress. Things like leaf curling, yellow leaves are all signs that your plant's water needs are not getting met. Garden plants require more water when it is dry, windy, and during the heat of the summer. It's important to water the soil, not the plant. Water on the leaves can cause saltburn and other issues, fungal issues. That's why some kind of drip irrigation is the best, because that water is going to go directly into the soil where it can be used by the plant's roots, rather than on the leaves where it can cause saltburn and other diseases. Water your plants in the morning. Plants are better able to absorb the moisture in the cool morning hours. It also helps prevent waterborne pests and diseases. It prepares plants before the heat of the day, and it helps them deal with the stress of the heat throughout the rest of the day. Consider adding oyas to your garden for extra thirsty plants like tomatoes. These are put in at the time of planting, and they're buried up to the stem, and then you simply fill the top with water. Oyas are a great way to provide extra water right where it's needed at the plant's root system for some of those extra thirsty plants, rather than running your watering system an extra time. Another question I receive a lot is about shade. What kind of shade cloth should I use? How do I provide shade? Do you shade your garden? All of these questions, I'm going to answer them, go through the best ways to provide shade, if you need to provide shade, and what things you can do naturally to add shade to your garden. The best time to think about providing shade for your garden is before you even plant your garden. Plant vegetables that need shade in the areas of your garden which naturally receive afternoon shade. Plant sun-loving vegetables in the areas that naturally receive the most sunlight. This is taking advantage of the microclimates in your yard. When you take advantage of the microclimates in your yard, you're really using your garden to its fullest potential. Notice which areas in your yard receive morning sun and afternoon shade naturally. These spots are prime real estate for your garden. So let's talk about some of the ways that you can add temporary shade to your garden during the hottest months of the year. Don't think of it as completely enclosing your garden in shade, but just providing some relief during the hottest times of day. You can attach shade cloth to existing trellises. You can see these trellises here. I use them for vining vegetables, but I also use them to attach shade cloth to during the hottest months of the year. If you're going to select shade cloth fabric, here's some things to keep in mind. 40% shade is great for most vegetables. 50% shade is good for tomatoes. 60 to 70% shade cloth is better for succulents and other light sensitive plants. Sunflowers are one of the easiest flowers to grow from seed, and they are a great way to add shade to your garden. I have several different squash plants growing, but I also have sunflowers, and they are going to provide shade naturally to those plants down below them. Another advantage of adding sunflowers is vining plants often find their way up, and they love using sunflowers as a trellis. You can also use outdoor umbrellas for good temporary shade. They can be moved and angled to provide afternoon shade where it's needed most. Consider planting vining vegetables that don't mind the heat to shade other vegetables in the garden. Notice where in your garden you could use plants as shade. Plant varieties that don't mind the heat. There are certain varieties of vegetables such as Armenian cucumbers that thrive in the heat. Things such as these sweet potatoes, which love the heat of hot summers, and you're much more likely to be successful when you grow a vegetable that's happy in the conditions that we can provide during the summer. Pay attention to your containers. Containers heat up more quickly than in-ground plants and dry out even quicker. Because the plant's roots in containers can't seek out moisture and cooler temperatures below ground, they rely on you to provide everything they need. Plants in containers often need to be watered every day during the hottest months of the year. If you can, think about moving containers to the shaded or more covered areas of your yard. Several of the containers that I grow in other times of the year, I let go dormant and don't plant anything in those containers during the hottest months of the year. This tip for gardening during the summer can be summarized with 3 words: mulch, mulch, mulch. Mulching is one of the most important things you can do to help your summer garden thrive. Compost, pine needles, or straw around your plants are great options for mulch. Think about adding a 3 to 5 inch layer of insulation for your plants. There's so many reasons to add mulch. Here are a few of my favorite. Mulching insulates the soil and helps keep temperatures more even. Mulching slows evaporation and allows the plant's roots to have access to more water. Mulching keeps the soil from developing a hard crust that's difficult for irrigation to penetrate. Your plants won't have to compete with weeds for nutrients and moisture. One of my favorite reasons for adding mulch is as mulch decomposes, it adds organic matter and nutrients to the soil. Just as gardens in other parts of the country have times of year where their gardens may not look their best, the middle of the summer in Arizona is one of those times for Arizona gardeners. Many plants aren't focusing on growing and thriving during that time. Their focus really is on staying alive rather than producing lots and lots of fruit. So this is not the time to prune, trim, or over-fertilize plants. Stressed plants are definitely more prone to pests and diseases, so it's important to spend time in your garden, even though it's hot, to keep an eye on things. The temperatures may not cool, but when the added moisture and humidity of the monsoon season comes, you can almost see the plants visibly relax. That extra moisture in the air makes it much easier for the plants to survive. And that's when you'll see a lot of them come out of that dormancy and kind of come to life again and begin to push out new growth. So certainly gardening in hot climates during the hottest months of the year can be a challenge, but hopefully today's video has given you a few ideas for things you can implement in your own garden. Thank you so much for watching.